Hello everybody, get ready to do Math 7 Quarter 1 Week 8 lesson plans for grade 7. Let's go right into our title page here, Math 7 Quarter 1. Classwork, homework sheets, quiz, test, pacing guide, edition 1. And this is where you can get Math 7 Quarter 1 in PowerPoint, animated PowerPoints, or MP4s, video, and name, date here, students. Free diagnostic test for Math 7 Quarter 1 available at animated PowerPoint math video at AOL.com. Let's go right into our Math 7 Quarter 1 Week 8 lesson plans. Here are lessons for Week 8, and what do we got here for Week 8? We're almost done with a quarter here. So we have 2.1, the property of operations, homework, classwork homework part 2. And then we go into the distributive property, classwork homework part 1, 2.2. 2.2 distributive property, classwork part 2. And then we go into 2.3, simplifying variable expressions. So we are starting to get closer here to doing equations in Math 7. And then your significant Common Core standard here is 7.EE, use properties of operations to generate equivalent expressions, apply properties of operations as strategies to add, subtract, factor, and expand linear expressions with rational coefficients. So we don't get into, we say rational coefficients. And so our intro now for Math 7 Quarter 1 Week 8, understand that positive and negative numbers are used together to describe quantities having opposite directions or values in the real world, which, for example, temperatures above, below zero, elevation, electric charges, credits, debits, and that kind of stuff. And use positive and negative numbers to represent quantities in real-world context, explaining the meaning of zero in each situation. So again, we're back to that standard here significantly, 7.EE. And learning targets, identifying combined like terms, apply to distributive property and commutative property to simplify expressions, justify each step in the simplification process. And your resource materials, animated PowerPoints, MP4 versions of lessons, classwork, homework, quiz, tests, worksheets are all done with these two media formats. Activities and tasks, all class worksheets are closed exercise from PowerPoints or video. Homework, quizzes, and test assignments available online with corrections provided after submission dates. So that means students, you can self-correct, self-grade. Access for all, available in over 100 languages. Available online 24/7, closed caption for hearing impaired, audio for sight impaired. And then classwork is 142 points of classwork, 82 points for note-taking, 254 points of homework. That's a lot of homework. There's no quizzes and there's no tests on Week 8. Total points is 478 points for Week 8, Math 7 Quarter 1. And then modifications and accommodations available online via Google Classroom interface, that is grades, classwork, homework, quizzes, tests, Zoom tutoring on request are all available through a Google Classroom. We start out here with our first lesson for Week 8, which is properties and operations. This is part 2 2.1 Part 2, and we use the 7-point EE standard here, expressions and equations. Use property of operations to generate expressions, apply properties of operations as strategies to add, subtract, factor, and expand linear expressions with rational coefficients. We got 26 points here of classwork for 2.1 Part 2, and then 14 points of note-taking. And then we got 2.1 Part 2 homework here. And on the homework, we got 65 points of homework for 2.1 Part 2. And then 2.2 classwork, 42 points. Classwork, and then we got 22 points of note-taking. And this is solving equations using distributive property. And we get into 8-point EE, 0.7B8, and 0.8B as well. So it's 8th grade solving equation standard here for 2.2 Part 1. And then simplifying numerical expressions. And then 7-point EE Part 2, RP point 3 as well, standard. And then again 2.2 classwork Part 2, continuing on with 2.2 to distributive property, 26 points classwork, and 22 points of class, or rather 26 points of classwork. And we got 2.2 here. 10 points possible of note-taking as well. So 10 points note-taking there for 2.2 Part 2. And then 2.2 homework Part 2.2 Part 1 homework. We got 49 points of homework for 2.2 Part 1 homework. And then there's 22 points of note-taking as well for that homework assignment. And then off we go to 2.3. We got 30 points of classwork and 30 points of note-taking here possible. And it's the same standards, 8-point EE, 0.7B8, point EE 8B, 8-point EE 8C, solving equations, and that'll be part of your simplifying variable expressions, and 7-point EE point 2, and 7-point RP point 3, simplifying numerical expressions. And then down to our next page here of assignments, and we got 2.3 here. 2.3 of homework, and that's 79 points here for homework for Part 1 homework for 2.3, simplifying variable expressions. And then 2.3 classwork Part 2, which it has 18 points of classwork and 6 points of note-taking. And then our homework for 2.3 Part 2 homework is 61 points and 6 points. I think that's with the classwork. So anyway, there is your Math 7 Quarter 1 Week 8. All your lessons for Week 8. Animated PowerPoint math video at AOL.com for questions, course materials. Thank you very much.